Your 5 iron goes 152 yards, not 187. The number in your head is a lie that you've been telling yourself for years, and that lie is the reason you cannot break 90. When Arcos pulled the data on a typical 20 handicap with a 5 iron, the average attempted shot distance was 187 yards. The actual median carry, Hayden, was 152 yards. That is a 35-yard self-deception gap. And here's what nobody is going to tell you. That gap doesn't just cost you one bad shot. It cascades. Short approaches turn into a 90-foot first putt or a chip shot. And then that turns into a 3-putt 27% of the time. Missed approaches turns into chips. And the amateur up and down rate is 31%. The cascade adds up to 2 or 3 shots per round every single round because you pulled the wrong club. You might think that putting is killing your score or that one ball that you hit OB is killing your score, but the data says that you started losing shots the second that you pulled the wrong club out of the bag. Hayden, what in the world is going on there?
Let me get this right. Was that a 35-yard gap?
35 yards.
What's the reason for that?
And there's a lot to do with thinking that the perfect shot is your average. There's a lot to do with thinking that you are just better than you actually think you are. I think a lot of golfers fear going long and therefore I'm going to go one club down and then swing hard, and they're already off with their numbers. I don't know. Is there a certain moment that you've done that? I mean, you're playing professional golf. That can't have ever happened, right?
Well, the more you talk about that, yes. When I was in college, my freshman year specifically, we had our home course we'd qualify at and we'd practice at. And a hole that I was very familiar with was NCR South, hole number 15. And it was a very long par 3, 235. It was always uphill. And I always found myself hitting the number that I was trying to hit or the distance I was trying to hit 1 out of 5 times. And so that's starting to make sense if we're thinking of maybe our best struck shot goes all the way to the flag, and then maybe the 4 out of 5 times it's not going as far. I would always come up short, and I would maybe blame the wind or say that I mishit it. In reality, I might have even been looking at my teammates, my playing partners' clubs, and the ego started to creep in. I need to hit what they hit. But I just, in reality, didn't know my numbers, my true numbers.
Well, and we referenced that study from Marcos, the data from them, where the 20 handicap is missing by 35 yards on that. Like that's insane, right? Like, and okay, maybe you as a pro golfer have one every once in a while, but like, what about a scratch golfer? Well, even a scratch golfer with a 7-iron, according to this data, has an 11-yard gap. For an attempted 170-yard shot, they're actually hitting it 159. So this isn't unique to high handicaps. I do this same thing. I've gone through phases where I was actively going one club up and swinging smooth in an attempt to get it even past the pin, because for whatever reason, hitting it past the pin feels way worse than hitting it short. The off script moment here for a second. Does that feel the same way to you? If you're enjoying this conversation so far, you are going to love the Play Ready Golf app. It takes the amount of time you have, the facilities you've access to, and the skill level that you're at, and it builds out a customized practice plan that gets harder over time so that you get better over time. You can use code PRGPOD and click the link down below to get a free 7-day trial and $20 off your annual plan for life. Now back to the conversation.
Well, when we hit it short, Isaac, we got to be chipping. And so if you're chipping, then unfortunately, you take birdie, you take sometimes even par out of play. And so our scoring average will go up.
Yeah, you walk up to that ball and you're thinking about how hard that shot is, or you're trying to gain something back as opposed to just trying to hit a solid shot. And then this thing can slowly start cascading, like we said, and maybe even making a double when you're just short of the green in regulation. So that's where, like we said, the majority of scoring errors from what we're seeing in this is just pulling the wrong club.
Yeah,
so,
it's not even the chip or the putt. It's pulling the wrong club. It starts all the way back there.
And yeah, you can miss it, right? Like, let's go back to this data. So 150 yards, the most common amateur miss is not long or left, it's short and right. ShotScope's data on amateur miss patterns is 36% miss short, only 14% miss long, 17.4% miss short left, and 19% miss short right. Only 6.2% miss long right. So that is borderline out of play, right? Why is this? Because the average amateur is swinging out of their shoes most likely with a club that just isn't right. And so maybe they're going to hit a little block. The majority of amateur golfers, it seems, have that kind of nice little like low spinny cut. And I do think part of that in the current landscape of golf is we've got a lot of new golfers from COVID. And when I was working as a fitter, I saw a lot of 25 to 35-year-olds come in who were really athletic, could hit it really, really hard, but didn't understand how to deliver the club because it's not natural. Maybe they played baseball growing up. I think that feeds into that a little bit as well. But understanding how far your clubs go, we're going to keep coming back to that and back to that and back to that. Understanding how far your clubs actually go is a lot of this. And so when I leave it short right and I maybe even get it barely on the green to 90 feet, what does that look like, Hayden?
Well, so I wanted to go back and just ask you one quick question. So because of that, because they're new golfer, maybe that dispersion is bigger. And so if that dispersion is bigger, then what their average is isn't going to be as close to what that furthest golf shot is. Is that what you're saying
Mhm.
specifically?
It's A, that dispersion's bigger, but B, people don't know how far they act like what's how far they actually hit it. Like how far is the actual average that this ball goes? Sometimes it goes longer, sometimes it goes shorter. That's how averages work. People
Yeah.
fear the long part of that average. And so then they pull back or they think they hit it further than they actually do. And now we end up with a 90 footer.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in terms of those averages, we want to bump up, almost like move that dispersion even past the pin and being okay with getting past that flag.
The easiest way to do this is take a 9 iron, a 7 iron, and a 5 iron. And we're going to go to the range. We're going to grab 15 balls and we're just going to pay attention to how far they're carrying. And relatively, range balls are going to carry a little bit shorter, but we're going to pay attention to how far they carry on average. And we're going to pay attention to how far offline they get relative to your actual target. So if you can just jot those things down, the alternate through them, try to make it somewhat random, but if you can get a general idea of, okay, this is how far the ball actually carries, this is how far offline it gets, this whole thing becomes a lot simpler. And like I said, 15 balls, that's going to help you so much. And that's going to avoid hitting it in bunkers or hitting it into the rough or even just at a bare minimum getting it on the green. Because if we're hitting it into bunkers, the numbers get even worse. A
Oh,
26
yeah.
handicap averages 3.54 strokes to finish from a greenside bunker. That is a guaranteed bogey and more often than not a double. So
Yeah.
we've got to be able to navigate these hazards. If you want to get better, it's not about making more birdies. We've talked about that at length. It's about avoiding the big numbers or even just avoiding bogeys or avoiding doubles. The missed approach opportunity, it's not costing you one shot. It's costing you at least 1.5 to 2.5 shots. And you multiply that by what? At least 5 to 8. And now we're talking about we're losing 20 shots
Yeah.
around. And the
Yeah.
majority of that has nothing to do with your talent. The majority of that has to do with your ability to pick the right club and your ability to understand your tendencies. First and foremost, the next time you go play golf, take 2 clubs more than you think. Like if you think it's a 7 iron, take a 5 iron
Yeah.
and just see what happens. This needs to be a round where you maybe don't really care about score. You put your ego aside. You go, all right, okay, I did airmail the green. Okay, maybe I drop another ball and I take one extra club. Okay, where did that one end up? I've been doing this a lot. Like I said, wedges have been weird for me so far this spring. Like I'm carrying everything a little bit shorter than I think I do, um, for the most part. And I've had to do the same thing where 122 feels like it should be. I'm taking a little bit off a gap wedge. It's really like a fullish gap wedge right now. That's fine. But I've got to get comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable, knowing that my true distances are closer to something that I would normally scoff at. Um, because yeah, you're gonna hit more greens, you're gonna finish hole high more often, you're gonna have shorter putts, you're gonna not have to chip as often, you're gonna start scoring better. So number one, we're pulling 5 iron when we think it's a 7 iron this weekend and just seeing what happens.